Welcome into another episode of Hot Takes and High Stakes. We're your hosts, Taylor and Austin. Today we are wrapping up our division chats with the NFC North. I'm excited. It's been a fun little journey, but we're so close to the NFL. We are 10 days away from training camp as of July 18th. As of recording, we are 10 days away. We are 18 days away from preseason.
Hell
We are
yes.
53 days away from week 1 kickoff with Patriots and Seahawks.
Put it on the calendar. I love it. I'm so glad training camp's starting because I'm ready for some news. Like it is dry right now. It is so dry.
Yeah, it's been rough.
Thank God we got this podcast. It's the only football content I have is what we're creating. And all the other podcasts you listen to, it's all the same, just same shit. People are getting creative. I think it was Football 301 that did like the most average players. And I was like, I'm not listening to that.
Honestly, worth a listen. I listened to last year's. The most average player is the perfect position to just level people off of. Because if they're worse than this player, they're bad. If they're better, you can consider them good.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Overall, I feel like last week we were able to talk about one of the best drafts of the entire league. I think we're kind of on the flip end here where this is possibly one of the worst drafts for a division out of the rest of the league. There's some good picks, don't get me wrong, but overall, I feel like this was kind of a very boring draft.
I don't think this division drafted poorly.
First off, I am going to try to not have a lot of Packer fandom kind of thrown in here and try to take that prejudice out.
Oh, you're not?
But I did wear this for this episode. I did have this prepared and set aside for today. First off, we can jump into Minnesota Vikings, which I don't know how about you. I feel like is the worst QB situation in the division, obviously because there's not a true starter. But I feel like their options at quarterback are not very ideal.
No, it's kind of... Yeah, Kyler's going to be the starter, in my opinion, just because he has the experience under his belt. I do think they are going to continue to develop J.J. McCarthy, but I think Kyler has the experience, but it's the running backwards, creating catastrophic negative plays that concerns me with him. I'm not a big Kyler fan. I know a lot of people love the upside. He has statistically had those seasons that are pretty good. He gets into the mid-20s passing touchdowns on his good years.
He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. He's got a great talent there. TJ Hawkinson, even Aaron Jones out of the backfield is a great receiving threat. He's got options, but it's just putting those pieces together with on the older side offensive line, knowing that Kyler has not really shown that he can do well without having pressure in his face.
Does Hawkinson still have it? Did he get hurt last year? Because for whatever reason, I just don't remember him being very productive.
There were some injuries last year, but I mean, to be fair, we also don't remember Justin Jefferson being productive with the QB situation last year.
No.
It wasn't Justin's fault. Like that was a bad QB situation we had last season. But if anyone is going to turn this team around, Kevin O'Connell is one of the smartest coaches we have in the league, one of the great offensive minds we have, and a quarterback guru. One of these quarterbacks, if they are going to make it in this league, this is the situation that they have to make or break. If they can't make it in this situation, they're not going to make it in this league, period.
I do love this coach. I'm glad you brought that up, and I want to throw this out there before it leaves me. This is the only division that has all 4 head coaches returning.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a pretty cool statistic. I didn't realize you forget how much coaching movement went on this offseason, and it's just absolutely insane the amount of new head coaches, and it's turning into college football. You get 2, maybe 3 years if you're lucky to make your GM and ownership happy, and then out the door.
Yeah, but I also feel like when you get complacent with being mediocre, that's when you do need to make moves like hiring a new coach, like with the Ravens, for example. At this point, complacency is not going to fly. We need to change something to bring in a different culture.
Ravens, Steelers, like, you've made the playoffs. You've proven you can make the playoffs. Well, win a fucking game.
Yeah. What can you do with it at that point?
Exactly.
So on top of their offseason acquisition with Kyler Murray, obviously new first-year head GM, Nolan Teasley is how you say it. They also brought in receiver Jawan Jennings, which should bring some nice help with their receiver core. Brought in cornerback James Pierre, help out with that struggling secondary. And possibly one of my favorite punters in the league, Johnny Big Dick Heckler. He's a hard-hitting, just a fun punter to watch. And it kind of tells you where your offseason at if we're excited about the punter being signed in, you know? Other than that, kind of a boring free agency. I mean, I think Jawan Jennings is a great signing. He kind of didn't really get the shine that he deserved in San Francisco, and I feel like this is a good place. But
Somebody to help Justin out.
this puts him at number 3 behind Jordan Addison because they just signed him to a contract extension. So that's going from a situation where you're the clear-cut number 2 to now the clear-cut number 3.
All right, let's jump into the Vikings draft. Okay, first pick for the Vikings, Caleb Banks, defensive lineman out of Florida. What are your thoughts on this guy?
Honestly, defensive lineman out of the SEC, probably one of the safest bets aside from an offensive lineman from one of the Midwest colleges. That's a comfortable bet. Getting a D-line from the SEC, someone who's fast, someone who's strong.
My concern with him, only played 3 games last year due to a foot injury. Scouts were still really high on this guy despite having this injury twice in his career. Little concerning there, but doesn't seem like he lacks any NFL attributes whatsoever.
I think the biggest thing there is playing time, getting that experience in college. I think that struggled. He did have the high point playing the SEC, one of the best conferences in college, but the lack of playing time over the past couple of years due to injuries, especially this last year, missing that much time is concerning. And I think that's kind of why I was a little shocked at the reach for number 18 being this guy. He does have that prototypical size and speed, but just one of the first question marks we have going into the draft grades today.
Well, since you say size and speed, it's clear Minnesota drafted for size. Oh my God. They had to have accumulated the largest amount of human beings on the planet with this draft. Just absolute gargantuans. Second round pick, Jake Golday out of Cincinnati. Linebacker. This is a 6'5" off-ball linebacker. To me, it kind of sounds like he'll really fit on the defensive front as an edge rusher. I don't know how much they'll try to play him off ball, but it does sound like he does have that versatility available. So that's a huge upside.
Yeah, they definitely need some edge rush help after getting rid of Jonathan Grenard this offseason, sending him away to Philadelphia. I feel like this would be a good signing, but at the same time, can you imagine a 6'5" off-ball linebacker over the middle? You can't throw over the middle. If you're below 6'4", 6'5", you can't throw over the middle.
Put him in the mic. Any crossing route.
Oh my good. You just can't do anything.
I don't know a ton about this guy. I keep raving about the depth that this draft had at the linebacker spot, so I don't really feel like you can go wrong taking a linebacker in this draft.
All right, jumping into round number 3, we have Dominic Orange, North tackle out of Ohio State. Again, just a safe bet. Defensive lineman out of Ohio State. Probably, aside from their receivers, their best production they've had out there lately.
Big Citrus, 322 pounds.
Big Citrus. What a name. What a badass name. That is a run-stopping man. Basically, what their GM told me this year is they are getting everything rebuilt through the trenches, and they're going to worry about that, which between last year being able to stop 0 running backs to hopefully they can actually stop a few this year. Jumping into their next pick, another third-round pick and another trench fight, a Northwestern offensive tackle, Caleb Turnman. That was a little strange to me. Northwestern, not the best season. Not the worst, not the best, but their offensive line didn't really jump off paper to me. Again, not many of us are watching offensive tackles for Northwestern.
I mean, I'm glad to see them getting a tackle. They gave up 60 sacks last season. So anything we can do to redefine that offensive front.
How many of those 60 sacks were actually offensive lineman issues and not JJ just running around causing worse issues?
There's a combination of the two for sure. A lot of it was JJ and his lack of decision making, does not know how to get rid of the ball, but he'll learn that.
Yeah. You know what? I can't throw the ball away because that's an incompletion. I'm going to run 20 yards backwards and get sacked. But let's get an offensive tackle in because that's going to solve the problem, right?
We got another third-round pick here. We got Jacoby Thomas, safety out of Miami. I feel like he went a lot lower, than I expected him to go. I know this team isn't necessarily needing a safety right at this moment, but this guy playing for the University of Miami, I saw him going a little bit higher in the draft. It was weird to see him go almost 100, but
It's just kind of the nature of the draft. Certain position groups, I feel like every year just kind of either fall up or
safeties are
shoot up.
they're downplayed. They're like safety, if you're in the game of football, you feel like is one of the most important positions. It's super critical, and they have
It's
to
your
be
last
so
line of
intelligent.
defense. They're once they get past the safety, that's it. There's no last person there. Like that is the last person that you have to save from a big play. And yeah, they're not making all the money that some of these top name corners are, but you have to have a decent set of safeties, or else it's just burn city all day in the secondary.
And you could tell, obviously, we are not Mel Kiper, but what do you grade in this draft?
They got a lot of talent in the trenches, which is where they needed, but I do feel like the type of talent they got was mediocre at best. I feel like they more looked at what the size was more than actually looking at what the player prospect was. I'm going to go with a B. B. I feel like a solid B would be where I'd put this.
I'll give him a C just because of to me, and they'll probably prove me wrong, but I don't feel like their homework was really done. I mean, you're taking your first pick, played 3 games last season. That's concerning to me.
And if the season before that, he had some season that jumped off paper and said, kind of, wow, that's a lot better prospect than I was getting for it. But he didn't.
And he's an absolute run stopper. He is. When he does play, he is an absolute run stopper. But these people that carry injuries over into the NFL, defensive linemen,
Every single play is a car accident.
Exactly.
Like those injuries, they stay with you for life. And then you get more because you're trying to play off of that injury. Your body naturally wants to adjust off of playing that injury and forces you to use other muscle groups. Then those constantly get injured. So maybe he has hamstring injuries for the next couple of years. You never know with that.
D linemen need healthy feet. Let's jump into the win-loss total. Looks like the Vikings are sitting at 8.5 this season. Let's take a look at the schedule.
Kevin O'Connell, I always feel like sits in that 8 wins is kind of that safe bet with Kevin O'Connell at the helm. Maybe last year was a little bit different. First year quarterback. Carson Wentz was the best quarterback they had last year, and he was playing on about one arm and half a leg at that point. With a healthy quarterback room, I feel like 8.5 is low for KOC. I feel like 9 wins, 10 wins is kind of comfortable, but this is a tough division. I've been bouncing back and forth. This is the hardest question. This has been my hardest question. I've been dreading this part.
It's hard because you got that quarterback factor in there that makes you question every game. Dude, it's very possible that they don't win a divisional game. They will, obviously, but it's possible that they didn't. Looking at the schedule here, I'm going to say 8 wins. I don't think they're getting over. I don't think they're making that 9 mark, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been bouncing back and forth. I think 8.5 is honestly that perfect line for this team. 8 sounds good to me, but I'm also worried that KOC unlocks something in Kyler, and he has one of the best receivers in the league to help him out. I feel like 9 wins is kind of also very doable. A 9-8 season, maybe even a 10-7 season. There's going to be some shockers here, but I think over is comfortable. He's got one of the best receivers in the league, one of the smartest offensive coaches, and a decent running back group behind you. If their offensive line can hold it together and you can just not turn the ball over, we can get 9 wins out of this.
I'm still not sold on the offensive line. I'm still not sold the quarterback position, but the talent is there to back it up. And this team's great at capitalizing and making turnovers, doing what they need to do. They're very well coached, and I feel like if that is going to happen after week 10, their second matchup with the Packers, I feel like that stretch right there is where they could do that if it were to happen, if the team's healthy, but I'm going to call the under on this one. Not real confident in this. It's probably one that I'll stay away from, but if I were, I would say under is your safe bet.
And you know what I think is going to truly end up happening here? I think this is all going to come down to one game, and that is the Week 13 Carolina game. I think Carolina is going to upset them possibly. It's going to be a crazy game. It's going to come down to the wire, and that's going to be the kind of kicker that keeps Minnesota out of the playoffs this year and forces them to finish third, if not last, in the division.
Just for my own satisfaction, who do you think's winning the week 1 matchup?
I think that the team with the most points and the most consistent quarterback play.
That's the stupidest shit I ever heard. Which team is going to be victorious week 1?
I have zero doubt in my mind the Packers are going to win that game.
It's funny because I work with a couple of Vikings fans and I am riling them up. I have no loyalty to the Packers whatsoever, but when those two are around, I am the biggest Packers fan you've ever met.
Yeah. If we had Micah Parsons, I would put my house on that game, but not having Micah Parsons concerns me. But I think the Vikings, there's a lot more question marks than there is answers going into this season. So I'm going to take the Packers on that one.
Any closing thoughts on the Minnesota Vikings?
Do you think JJ will be a starter in this league, or do you think we've kind of seen the end of JJ as a starter?
No, I don't think this is the end. And even if this team gives up on him, I still think there's potential there. I thought he was good at Michigan, but I was on the side thinking he was overrated. I've never been a big McCarthy fan. I do think he has potential, but who knows what happens.
How much of a success in Michigan, though, was due to Blake Corum and Roman Wilson really carrying the reins there?
And also a very well-coached team, much like he has now. I do think he can develop. I'm not writing him off just yet.
They also knew the plays of the other team, though. We can't discredit that. They also knew what they were playing
That's
against.
just being prepared to play your opponent. That is not cheating. That is being as prepared as you could be to play your opponent, and I don't care what anyone says. Everybody does that. They just got caught.
Yep. That's just basically that's cheating in a nutshell.
That's
everyone
scouting
cheats.
better than other people is what that's doing.
Yep. I'm sorry that you were being predictable. That's not their fault.
Give my team, any of the teams that I root for, a Connor Stallions. That is the most loyal, devoted fan that you can have, and that dude sold his soul for his team to win a championship.
All right, jumping into our next team, we have the Detroit Lions. Kind of a sad season last year. I truly still believe in Dan Campbell, though. I think he's still the one coach out of the entire league that I would follow into a battle more than any other coach.
Is that just because he's a likable guy, or is he genuinely a good coach? Because everyone says he's a good coach, but he makes shitty decisions.
Okay,
So is he a good coach?
as a team, as two fellow degenerates and gamblers, we can't really judge a man based off of his gambling tendencies. The man might not
Fair.
win every single gamble, but when he does, boy, is it spectacular. Overall, I feel like last year was just kind of a disappointing year for Detroit. I know they dealt with a lot of injuries. That was probably the biggest battle they faced last year, was the battle of constantly losing their players. This year, losing offensive tackle Taylor Decker, I feel like is going to bite them in the ass. Not having Monty, I feel like replacing Monty with Pacheco, I think is really the biggest fuck up this team had.
And it's hard because everyone wants Gibbs to get the ball, but the amount of times that this team likes to run the ball, it's going to be a hit not having Monty when Gibbs is off the field.
What about those weeks, though, when Gibbs can't get going, Monty just seemed to be flowing? We're not going to get that with Pacheco. We're not going to get a week where Pacheco goes out and gets 95, 100 yards, and maybe a couple tutties. We're not going to see that from Pacheco. I feel like we're dealing with a completely different running back. The pass blocking for Pacheco is a way worse downgrade than we had from Monty. I'm worried about this situation.
Yeah, and releasing two veterans off the offensive line. You mentioned Taylor Decker, also Graham Glasgow as well. That's concerning to me. New offensive coordinator coming in. Who knows if they are going to be as run heavy? Maybe they're going to try to get the ball to the running backs out of the backfield a little differently through the air. Maybe incorporate some new screens. I don't know what this team has planned, but
on paper, though, Before we jump into anything else, can you tell me this is not the hardest team to predict as a fantasy perspective on which player they're going to lean with? Obviously, you have your two favorites. You have Jameer, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, your two top-notch targets. But overall, like you have Pacheco, you have Jameson Williams, you have Greg Dortch, which was they signed this offseason. There's a lot of 1 week we'll get 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 1 week we'll get 1 catch for 2 yards and nothing. I feel like there's a lot of back and forth.
I think that changes this year. I think you are absolutely going to see Jameson Williams involved, much like you see CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. I think that was Dan Campbell's frustrations with his offense last year, is not using Jameson Williams when they needed to be using him. So personally, I think that those two are going to be a 1-2 combo, and if it's not one, it will be the other. Plus, you've got Laporta, who clearly should be involved. He's absolutely phenomenal, and just
Injuries just took out last year.
injuries are what absolutely plagues this team, and it has for the last 2 years.
Mhm.
So I'm not completely writing them off, but I'm not as high on them as I have been.
Okay. My next question. Do you think we've seen the peak of Detroit Lions?
I do think they have peaked. Yes, I don't know that they will be back as strong as they have been, but they're that team that also, when you try to doubt them in the back of your head, you're like, maybe you can't, because when they're written off and they're doubted, they come out of nowhere with no starters on defense. They're playing like one starter by the end of the year, and they'll still go out there and get a win. So
But that 2024 offense was historically one of the best offenses we have ever seen. Got 13 wins, got them the division. That still couldn't get the job done. I don't know if anything can get the job done at that point.
yeah, I don't think they're going to be as productive as they were then offensively, but still they've won this division 2 out of the last 3 years, I believe. So the upside's still there. I don't think they're going to take a nosedive. I mean, their win total is sitting at 10.5. That's telling you right there they're getting at least 8-9 wins. That's still a playoff
Or is
caliber
that
team.
just FanDuel putting a lot of hope and prayer into a team to bounce back? That's some
The
questions.
sports books are usually not wrong on the season win totals. Usually.
We're going to dive into that.
Maybe this one's bait.
We're going to jump into that and see where how we're feeling.
But first, let's look at the draft.
Jumping into the draft, the first round draft pick, we have offensive tackle out of Clemson, Blake Miller. Pretty safe, prototypical size, strong hands, quick feet. Gonna have to really get some quick playing time though with Taylor Decker leaving. Gonna probably be a day one starter as a in-division rival. I love that. As a football fan, that concerns me. That's someone who is going to get a lot of issues and a lot of problems in a division that is filled with pass rushers, and this man is going to struggle this first couple of games in this first half of season.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like this guy primarily has only played right tackle. 97% of his career snaps have been at right tackle. This article actually talks about them taking Penei Sewell and switching him to left tackle. So I think that's much more friendly to a rookie, putting him on the right side instead of putting him brand new on the left side. So I agree with that, and I think that's a move that will happen, especially if they do plan on starting him immediately, which releasing those veterans, I don't think they have much of a choice at this point. So hopefully they picked somebody that's can fill those shoes.
Yeah, I love the offensive lineman in the first round. I feel like that's probably, when in doubt, that's the safest pick to bet.
And we'll bitch if they don't.
Yeah.
You know we will.
We will, because it's not an exciting pick. But overall, look at the history of time. When you get an offensive lineman in the first couple of rounds, usually more often than not, that pick pans out and is a very reliable
They play for
pick.
8-9 years.
Exactly. Jumping into the second round, we have edge rusher out of Michigan, Derek Moore. How you feeling?
So, perfect compliment on that defensive front. They need someone to play opposite Aiden Hutchinson. I forgot his name for a second. After they released Al-Quadin Muhammad, the Michigan defense was dominant on the front. This guy played a big part in that. He had 207 pressures on that Michigan team. Over half of them were belonging to him. So I think him coming out of the Big Ten with 10 sacks last year, he's going to play a big part in this team. And if he can be 3/4 of what Aiden Hutchinson is, this is going to be an electric defense.
I think that's kind of been the biggest downfall of this defense and what the biggest key they've been lacking, because they've got a lot of offensive tackle help. Last year, they get in Tyleik Williams in the first round, which really helped out immediately once he stepped on and helped that team out. But it just showed there's that one key defensive line position that they've needed every single game. Aiden Hutchinson can't do everything. If they got that one more player that was just slightly over mediocre on the other side, that would help this defense
Hutch
out
can only
so
be on
much.
one side.
Normally, we don't talk about 4th round draft picks, but due to the lack of picks that this team has, we can go ahead. Linebacker Jimmy Rolder out of Michigan. It seems to just be a hometown team. They didn't really want to go far with their scout team. I don't know if they didn't have enough money to buy jet fuel for the planes.
Not real common for the Lions to recruit from Michigan, which is insane because they're just an absolute talent pool. This guy looks to be solid. 73 tackles last year. He can play linebacker well. I don't know a ton about him. I didn't see Michigan play a lot last year because they weren't the top-notch Michigan team that we're used to seeing, but they'll be back.
I do think the biggest issue, though, that this team dealt with was after the draft, dealing with the situation with Terry and Arnold. Apparently, it's illegal to kidnap and beat the shit out of a guy who stole from your Airbnb.
Rightfully so.
This is America. I thought this was America. You steal from me, and you're saying I can't put you in a van and
eye
then
for
pistol
an
whip
eye.
you? I disagree with the legal procedures, but
One of the best write-ups I've seen this offseason for sure. Bound and freaking pistol whipped. Like, this is straight out of a movie. I absolutely love it. This guy, justice was served.
you know what? There's some bad people that are still playing the NFL, Rashee Rice, who can take their car and crash into other cars at 150 miles an hour and get away with very little to no repercussions.
Ray Lewis killed somebody. Still had a very, very successful career.
But nonetheless, there's some bad people in the NFL that are still have zero repercussions. I feel like Terry Arnold needs a second chance. The man is just doing what any of us wanted to do. He just had the connects to actually go through with it.
Sounds like he should be a Raider at this point.
Hey, what do you think is going to sign him next? But I do feel like that leaves this team in a very horrible situation in the secondary. They struggled last year, secondary-wise. I feel like leaning on him was kind of the big game plan going into this year, and now they're down. They're possibly their best corner, and they have very little to replace him. They brought in Rock Ya-Sin, Roger McCreary, Avonte Maddox. I don't feel like any of those guys can really hold anything close to what Terry Arnold was being able to hold down as form as production. I feel like that's going to burn them. Losing Alex Anzalone as well, their defensive captain they've had over the past couple years. This defense is going to struggle.
All right, that being said, 10.5 wins. Let's pull up the schedule. Give me your thoughts.
Overall, Dan Campbell led team. Without looking at the schedule, I like it. Looking at what they brought in, looking at the situation they're in, I'm taking the under right off the bat. I feel like 9-8 wins is where they're going to be.
I mean, that's pretty safe, but when you look at their schedule, it's actually pretty friendly. Last year, they got absolutely rocked with a brutal schedule, and this year, it looks to be pretty achievable. I can see them, if they have a good year, getting 10 wins, but I really think 11 is a stretch. I think defensively, they're going to have to step up to the plate. They're going to have a home run, and offensively, they're capable. They're capable of getting that 10 wins, but defense is going to have to keep you in these games. You're playing teams like Buffalo. You're playing teams like Chicago, who are going to go out there and score a lot of points on you. Most weeks, these teams score pretty high. I look to them scoring a lot of points this year, but their divisional games alone, you're going to have to be able to play defense. You're going to have to be able to stop some pretty strong offensive in this division to be able to place yourself towards the top.
And see, looking at the first couple weeks, I see them maybe getting out, going to their bye week on week 6, maybe 3-3 or 3-2.
And worst case,
I think that's best case. I truly think that they're going to beat Arizona. They're going to beat New York. Are they going to beat Carolina? We don't know. We don't know where they're at with that. We've kind of
Yes.
had that discussion.
And they'll
But
be
New Orleans, we've had a lot of high hopes looking at New Orleans going
week
into this
1,
year.
healthy Lions beat New Orleans week.
What happened last year, week 1, with the healthy Detroit Lions? Didn't they get their ass stomped by Green Bay? Micah Parsons scarfed down Jared
Green
Goff?
Bay is not the same team as New Orleans.
I'm not talking about Green Bay right now. I'm talking about Detroit Lions looking like shit the first week last year.
And Dan Campbell is going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I promise you, he has a sticky note on his mirror that says week 1, and it has that score posted that he sees every morning when he brushes his teeth. This team comes out strong. They win week 1.
I think New Orleans gives them a battle, and I think New Orleans kind of upsets their week 1 kind of opening.
So you're saying they go 0-2 for sure?
I do.
They're not beating the Bills.
No, I think they do go 0-2, and I think they get their first week 3, at home against New York. I think that's when they get their first win.
First 5 games, I personally got them at 4-1. And then I think after the bye week is when I think they're going to kind of, those 2 divisional games that they have back to back, that's going to be rough. Miami, they're definitely capable of beating, but then this stretch going New England, Tampa, Chicago, they can lose all of those games.
They're going to beat Atlanta. They're going to beat Tennessee. They're going to probably take the series from Minnesota. New York, we're kind of back and forth on that. I think New York's going to be better than you do. But then again, finishing the season up with Chicago and Green Bay at Green Bay.
That's rough.
Jared Goff is not a cold weather quarterback. Being outdoors, where he has statistically done way worse in cold weather, I think that's going to struggle being at Chicago and at Green Bay to finish off the season. Those are 2 back-to-back cold weather games.
2 road games. That's rough.
And cold. Very, very cold.
Do you think it's going to be cold by chance?
I think it's going to be a little chilly. I think it might be a little brisky. I think it might be a bit nipply. But overall, I think that's going to kill them and their momentum going into that back end. And that's, if they get in, it's going to be a wild card. But I don't think they get over 10 wins. I think they get 9 wins.
So I think we're in agreement. This one, pretty safe to take the under. If they go out there and shock the world, they'll go over.
All right, next question. Do you think Jahmyr Gibbs is the future offensive player of the year?
It's possible. It's certainly possible. Jahmyr Gibbs is phenomenal at times. I just worry about what their scheme's going to look like. You're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. You
Don't know
lost
what he
a
does.
lot of veteran help on that offensive front, but Jahmyr's a playmaker, and he's definitely capable of offensive player of the year.
Yeah, I'm a little worried if they give him 30 touches a game about how long he can last throughout the season. But if Pacheco can step up and we could see the Pacheco we saw 2-3 years ago with Kansas City, I think this could be a very dominant offense.
Biggest disappointment for me when he came off injury, because I was real big on Pacheco. He was phenomenal, and then he came back and he just did not have it. And I think Detroit will absolutely try to run Gibbs into the ground, but the saving grace will be if Pacheco can be productive, and he's so good catching the ball out of the backfield as well. If they can get some of that going, which to me it kind of seems like that's what they're going to gear towards, moving the ball on those screens, swing routes, arrows. I think that in my mind, that's kind of what I'm seeing out of the Lions this year.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think a lot of West Coast offense, a lot of short passes, a lot of screens underneath. Maybe that can open things up for Jameson Williams down deep, because that's where he thrives. Quit throwing him these short slants and expecting him to do something with it. That man is a deep burner. No, he 100% is. Amon-Ra is the underneath, Jameson Williams on the outside, and then you have 2 great talents with Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. This offense is poised for success. I'm worried about Jared Goff. When are we going to see the downfall? This is his now 10th season in the league. When are we going to see it? He can't play forever. He's never been top notch. Don't get me wrong. He's never been bad, except for those couple years in LA. But Detroit wise, he's never been bad. But when are we going to see that downfall? Because I feel like it's coming.
We've had no signs that that's coming just yet. But he will have those Jared Goff games. He has about 2 a year.
5 interceptions.
He'll throw 4 or 5 interceptions. And yeah, but when we start to see that consistently, then we know.
I think that's going to be coming the next couple of years. I hope not. I don't wish anything bad, but I think Jared Goff might be out of Detroit in the next 2 years. I think that would be the smartest decision for that team.
I think he's there at least 2. I can see that third year question marks start to come up, but if they're smart, they'll start to make some moves. And who do they have behind him?
Teddy Bridgewater, they
Is
just
it
brought in this
Bridgewater?
offseason.
Okay.
The greatest high school coach ever, by the way, giving up $70K of your own money to make sure that your players are taken care of, then getting fired just to turn around and make sure that there's a Teddy Bridgewater law now that's saying that coaches can now supply up to a certain amount of money for their players for food, travel, and such. What a great change. The players loved him. I am a big Teddy Bridgewater fan, but is he going to be carrying this team to championships?
No.
Yeah.
Isn't Bridgewater old? Yeah.
We saw Bridgewater get his fucking knee.
Let's jump into the Chicago Bears for our next team. Some of the biggest news coming out of the offseason, sending DJ Moore over to the Buffalo Bills.
Good for DJ Moore. Good for him. Good a situation where you could be a big target. I thought that was a year too late.
Yeah, I think the Bills absolutely needed that. So I know we're not talking about the Bills right now, but yeah, this team is pretty stacked at the wide receiver position. They've got a lot of good young talent. They still don't have the guy quite established, in my opinion, but some decent talent at the wide receiver mark.
Yeah, no, they have some great receivers. Little issues about Roma Dunze's injuries from last year. Apparently that Liz Frank injury is going to cause him some issues for the rest of his career, per his own words. So that's a little concerning. Hopefully he's able to bounce back from that because Ricky Roma Dunze was fun to watch, but really hope that their number one isn't dealing with career-long injuries already. Overall, they did some good things last year. Possibly one of the smartest head coaches when it comes to offensive playing calls in the league. Definitely in the top 3 as one of the most genius playing designers, but did also some great signings on defense, short ups and defense, bringing in Devin Bush and Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant's a great addition. I absolutely love him for the secondary.
Definitely needs to help Jalen Johnson out. Hopefully we can get a full season of Jalen Johnson being healthy because he's also a very fun corner to watch.
They've got 2 pass rushers that are fighting for contracts going into next season. So you're going to need to see some production. But that's one thing that this team has absolutely lacked is a good, strong pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't had it. They haven't drafted it. So it's time. They need it.
I can't think of a good pass rusher this team has had since Khalil Mack. Can you?
Honestly, no.
I think that's the last good top
no good edge rushers.
Rusher.
They haven't had any notable linebackers since Khalil Mack.
Roquan Smith, who they sent away to Baltimore after he started to break out.
That's a good point. Yeah, but he didn't break out until he went to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not remembering any production.
Not from Chicago. It's kind of been that dead man zone who I don't know how long we can call Chicago for. They are moving to Indiana, it sounds like. So
I forgot. That's just wrong. Like, I know you're not a big Bears fan because you can't be, but to me, it's just wrong. It's a historic football franchise. It would be like moving the Packers. You can't move the Browns.
Soldier Field is the longest standing field in NFL history. It has been around since the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken. We're just going to move because we can't find the funding to take care of it. I'm sorry, what? We can't take care of one of the oldest NFL stadiums in the league?
It's a sports town. Like,
just 2 baseball teams in this town.
Take $2 from every MLB fan that comes there and pay for the field to be maintained. I don't understand. Like, that is such a sports mecca in Chicago. I really don't understand it. It's wrong. Still hoping they can salvage something. But yeah, the Indiana Bears.
Isn't that just wrong? Does that feel wrong to say? It feels like you're just saying an arena football team. Jumping into their drafts, they probably got one of the best defensive backs available in Dylan Thienenman, a safety out of Oregon. Not the best ball skills. He did have 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions this last season, but this is a tackling machine. First 2 seasons at Purdue, both over 100 tackles each season. This last year got 96. From a safety position, that's incredible. That is a tackling mecha monster that you would need. I'd take that part.
4.340.
Got that speed to crash up in the box. Kind of that perfect fit, but they've lost Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. He's going to have to fill some big shoes.
All right. Next up, we've got Logan Jones, center out of Iowa. Again, Midwest interior offensive lineman. I absolutely love it. This guy didn't allow a pressure or a sack in 2025. He's got 51 starts over 4 seasons with the Hawkeyes. I think this is an absolute phenomenal pick for them. This offensive line has not been great, and I think this is absolutely going to help Caleb continue to progress. So I think this is a great pickup for that second round spot.
Yeah, he's going to get a chance to sit behind Garrett Bradbury for at least a year or two, kind of learn behind one of the better talents, at least used to be one of the better talents of the league. But definitely future starter, future stalwart of this offensive line. They did a lot of work this season to shore up that position and give Caleb a little bit more time in the pocket. Jumping into their third round pick, we have tight end out of Stanford, Sam Roush. I thought this was the wildest pick that this team could have picked.
I forgot Stanford's still on a football team, honestly.
Hey, Andrew Luck is the GM, man.
I know Andrew Luck's trying to get them back on track, and good for him, but this team's got to get some money, get some NIL. Since Christian McCaffrey, this team has fallen off the map.
Do you remember early 2000s, like 2010s, when this was one of the teams to watch?
Being a big Utah fan, dreaded having to play Stanford because it was going to be an absolute slugfest every time. Stanford was so tough, and it's hard to see them falling off, but when we implemented NIL, it's just they're not that team that can compete anymore.
Yeah. This Sam Roush had some good plays, good moments in Stanford, was mostly kind of that inline blocking.
He's identified it, blocking tight end.
This is what he's kind of going to go into. He's going to be behind Cole Kmet. He's going to be behind Colston Loveland. Not going to get a lot of passes, which I thought was a reach for a blocking tight end in the round 3. Yeah. Odd timing for me. You could have gotten a way more important position, another edge rusher, for example, than getting a tight end that's not going to see the field other than the blocking situations.
Yeah, certainly don't agree with that for what this team does need. I would say absolutely go after a pass rusher. Take a gamble on someone that fell to the 3rd round that has huge pass rush upside. That's what I would be looking for. Maybe a running back at that point, but I don't see taking a blocking tight end
out of any team. I understand the reasoning behind it, but I just didn't get the timing behind it. That's a round 5, round 6 pick where you get your blocking tight end. You bring a man who maybe they could develop into a receiving threat. You're jumping a 3rd round, top 100 pick on a position that will maybe see 20 snaps, 30 snaps all season.
Yeah, and then for your next pick, you take a wide receiver out of LSU that runs a 4.2 with 633 kickoff return yards in 2024. How are you taking a blocking tight end before this guy that runs a 4.2?
Excellent talent, excellent speed. Will be fun to watch, especially with this new kickoff, the way everything works out. When you have speed, you are a kickoff monster. So it'll be fun to see, but he's not going to be really a lot of receiver time out there. You know, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden's probably going to be the big one too. You may see him for a couple games here and there, but I don't see this guy being more than just a specialist with maybe a slight receiver upside. Overall, after looking at everything, how do you feel about their grade?
I'll be generous and do C-. I don't think they absolutely botched it. I like the center. I feel like they did address kind of their needs, but then the blocking tight end for a 3rd round pick, I don't see the logic there. Me personally, don't like it. I would have liked to see them grab an edge rusher out of here, or at least a really, really strong defensive tackle. So C- as being generous in my opinion.
I think every single pick was kind of a reach, honestly. I think Thieneman would have been there in the 2nd round. There wasn't a lot of hype him going in the 1st round, at least from what I was seeing. I didn't see him a lot of hype going there. I didn't see Logan Jones really jumping off anyone's draft chat. He's a center. You can get centers in the 3rd, 4th round, no problem. They're still there. And then a blocking tight end and a 3rd string receiving specialist tight block.
Anyone that played center in the Big Ten is available 4th round.
Every time.
Absolutely. So
yeah, every time. So C- I think is generous. I'm going to go with C- as well. just because I do feel like Thieneman alone, I feel like is a comfortable pick. I do feel like it was a reach, but he's going to be Harrison Smith kind of esque player for Chicago, which would have needed that strong safety position for a long time. But I do feel like they did not fill the holes that they desperately needed coming off that division championship, where they did see a lot of issues in the playoffs where they struggled on defense.
So win-loss total for this team is sitting at 9.5. Before we jump into the schedule breakdown, how are you feeling? Naturally, looking at how they did last season, I'm jumping all over this over. 10 wins, I think, is absolutely doable for this team. What are your thoughts before we look at the schedule?
I'm going to take under. I think we're going to get a regression from Caleb Williams. I feel like he spent a lot of this offseason kind of running his mouth. There's been a lot of comments coming out of players, especially Colson Loveland on the Bustin' with Boys podcast, where what they're concerned with is the Packers. They're not concerned with divisions. They're not concerned with Super Bowls. They're not concerned with championships. They're concerned with certain teams in their division. And to me, that shows immaturity in the organization, and that shows that the team's not ready to make that next step to be that championship level team. I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, and I do think that shows immaturity for sure. You do have to take it game by game, but in Ben Johnson's first season, doing that well, having that much success, seeing that much success out of Caleb, I have a hard time thinking there's going to be any regression there. Even after looking at the schedule, I still think they're going to take that over. Let me put it up here on the screen so you can have a look at it as well. So week 1 at Carolina, that's a win. Week 2, that's a win. I think Philadelphia
takes the win.
Finally got them.
Wins.
Philadelphia finally got them a new offensive coordinator. I'm worried. Like, as much as I hate to say it because I despise the Eagles, I think they're going to be back. But
they got rid of a cancer on their team as well, so that's good for them. I feel like they're going to be moving up, trending up.
Their non-divisional games are very manageable, though.
They have New England and Seattle in back-to-back weeks.
That portion of it is hard, but I'm talking Carolina, New York, the Saints, who, yes, I do think they are going to continue to improve, but I don't think they're where the Bears were last season. You've got Jacksonville, Miami.
Okay, that's the question I want to ask you. Chicago Bears and Jacksonville. That, I feel like, is going to be a high-scoring, take the over immediately on that game.
That's home for the Bears.
You have Liam Cohen going against Ben Johnson. Both teams with mediocre defenses, very strong offensive talents.
Certainly a chip on your shoulder. This is going to be a 66 over.
Yeah, that's going to be a high-scoring game looking at that. And if we get Caleb and Trevor Lawrence working together, working on their good days, oh, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Yeah, there's some winning stretches here. Don't get me wrong. I do think that they're going to get some wins and they're going to be competitive this season. But I feel like that last stretch, Buffalo, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, again, NFC North, it's just kind of shown week 18 is for the division. There's always a division game going on week 18 for the NFC North. Who's going to win it? Who's going to lose it? Who's in? Who's out? And it never is solidified going until the final week. Going against that tough of a stretch, I feel like that's going to hurt them, especially if they have a down regression at all, like I think they are. I think Caleb is going to struggle. I think he's not going to be able to play freely like he thinks he is. Last year, he was able to get away with it. They were one of the best teams in EPA for play, where they have over the success than it was expected.
Well, he gets away with it because of his athleticism. He hasn't lost any athleticism. There's no injury that he's recovering from. I don't see the regression. And believe me, I was a Caleb Williams hater, as I know you were. I naturally don't like anyone coming out of USC. They have to prove themselves. So personally, I don't know where the regression's coming from. I think this team's only going to go up.
I don't think we've seen the end of the Chicago reign in New York in the NFC North. I just don't think we're going to see a championship level performance out of them this season. I truly take the under on this just because I don't think Caleb is going to be able to get away with the success that he had this last year going off script.
All right, I'm going to cut your spite short. I do have one question before we jump into our last team. These teams, as you notice, you look through the depth chart, very strong as far as these wide receiver rooms go. There's a lot of depth, there's a lot of question. I want to ask you a fantasy question. If Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra are out of the picture, who is the next wide receiver out of this division that you're immediately jumping to?
I like Christian Watson because he is going to get a lot more targets. I truly think the best bang for your buck is going to be when you can get Jameson Williams in the 4th or 5th round of the fantasy draft, and he will go out for multiple 20-point games in a row and go on these random hot streaks that I think is going to jump off and help you. On the Bears side, I think Luther Burden could be a very, very fun player to watch.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Christian Watson if you didn't, but since you mentioned him, you mentioned Jameson Williams, that was my other one. And then also, yeah, Luther Burden.
I think he's going to be fun. I do also think, do you think Kyle Monangai will be the lead back by the end of the year? Or do you think we're going to see another year where we're stuck with DeAndre Swift?
No, they're going to stick with Swift. I think you're going to see a healthy split. I don't think Monangai is going to take over the starting role. He would have already if that were going to be the case, in my opinion, but I think it will be a 50-50 split at the most. I don't see Monangai taking more snaps than Swift.
I think Monangai is deserving of more snaps just based off the fact we saw more production of him last year. I know they're going to start out with more of a 1A, 1B situation, 50-50 split like you're saying. I'm thinking at the end of the year, I'm not saying it's going to be a full Monangai workhorse load, but it's going to be more of a 60-65 Monangai situation, you know?
Now, carries, I think Monangai will see more carries, but I'm talking snaps. I think Swift will still have at least
Swift
half
has the
those.
better pass blocking skill set. Don't get me wrong. The Monangai struggles there. Hopefully we could see some upgrades from it this offseason. Hopefully he's worked on it. We can see him step up in the pass blocking, get him some more snaps. But that's kind of the only difference, though, is Swift may be the better pass blocker, but Monangai's better with the ball in his hands. He showed last year he's better on the inside. He's better on the outside when you get those swing passes on those screens, stuff like that to kind of push him out. He has more burst than Swift has. I think Swift's age just kind of caught up to him. And if they were smart, they would leave to Monangai. I really think that Swift is done, dude. Jumping into our last team, we have the Green Bay Packers. Overall, not really a good high look depending on where you're looking at from each source. Some people are saying that probably going to finish last in the division. Others are saying that they're going to take the division. It kind of depends on one person's shoulders. And I think that's Jordan Love. How you feeling?
Certainly do not pick them to finish last in that division. I think they will be competing for the top spot with the Bears. I do think it's a huge hit losing Jeff Halfley.
Yes.
I don't know a ton about Jonathan Gannon and what he's going to do as far as Jordan Love is capable, and it's just a matter of him showing it each week. It's this early season, this slump that he goes into early in the year. It's like late in the year, he becomes so electric. And this offense, the only thing that I would really question offensively, it's not their passing game. It's their running, their rushing. I don't see these big burst plays out of Josh Jacobs. That's my only concern. But you've got Tucker Kraft. He's going to be back. This wide receiver room's looking good. I haven't lost faith in Matthew Golden whatsoever. I'm still big on him, and I think he will finally get a chance to show the league what he's capable of, but he's got to get the targets, got to get the numbers up. Christian Watson, I see a big year out of him. They, move some talent out of this receiver room. So I think this will be the year that if Matthew Golden is going to break out, it will be this year.
Yeah, I definitely think the breakup of the receiver room is kind of opening some other situations, kind of like a wildfire where you need to burn some of this long overdue old stuff to kind of allow the new stuff to grow. And I think that's kind of what they did with this receiver room. I think losing Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Dobbs is going to hurt at the first couple of weeks. I really do think that's going to struggle. I do like the potential with Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, but I do think missing those sure-handed Romeo Dobbs catches over the middle. And
that's the part that surprises me.
There is some questions out there regarding on keeping Jaden Reed over Romeo Dobbs and not using him as more of a trade target, because you could have gotten a lot of more picks out of Jaden Reed using him as a trade target. However, I do think they're kind of over that Romeo Dobbs situation. I don't know if you remember about 2 years ago, there was a lot of this whole he just quit showing up. They had to go send someone to go find him situation. He just didn't enjoy playing football. This last year, he seemed to be in a lot better place. He was happy, he was enjoying football and all that. And it showed on the football field, but it really kind of put a sour taste in the organization's mouth.
I did not know that he pulled a Dennis Rodman on the
Yeah,
Packers.
he pulled some shady stuff. They ended up suspending him for a game. It was the Carolina Panthers game in 2024. Matt LaFleur called it attitude detrimental to the team, and that's all they would address with it. They really wouldn't go any further, which I do respect keeping it in-house. That's kind of where those situations need to be handled. I think Jaden Reed is more explosive. He has a higher ceiling. I think we've kind of seen Romeo Dobbs' ceiling, personally. Dontayvion Wicks was the one I was concerned about. I think he could be a top-notch receiver in this league, could be a top 20 with the right system, the right coaching. He's so great when it comes off the break. His routes are crisp. He did have some struggle with catching the ball past couple of years. He has dropped those drop rates down, and it has seemed to really work well for him, but he just didn't have the targets needed to really thrive in this offense, which seemed to be the receiver's issues with every other receiver.
All right, let's jump into the Packers draft.
Jumping into the draft, no first-round draft pick due to the Micah Parsons trade. I do feel like that was a good trade. I know he is hurt, but I don't know how you feel. I think so far it's kind of not determined yet on who won that trade out of Dallas and Packers on the Micah Parsons side.
I don't think it was a bad move on either side. I was initially one of the haters, calling Jerry an absolute moron, but we're starting to see that maybe Jerry wasn't a dummy. We're looking at the Packers gained proven talent. You got a very mid-grade defensive tackle. Let's say above average defensive
Past prime
tackle.
defensive tackle. At
Yeah.
one point, Kenny Clark was one of the top tier
Oh,
defensive
God,
tackles,
Here we go.
but he is past his prime. He's been in the league a long time.
But acquiring 2 first-round picks, that's huge.
And then turning around and using those
So-
first-round picks to get Quinnen Williams wasn't a genius idea.
If Micah is not on the field, the Packers are getting absolutely ransacked for this trade. Absolutely ransacked.
Okay.
But that explains what happened with the first round. Then we have a super late second-round pick 52, Brandon Cease, DB, out of the Gamecocks. What do you know about this guy?
Very physical outside corner, that gain speed, very good coverage. Wasn't the strongest tackler. Did struggle a little bit in certain tackles. Hopefully they could shore up that technique a little bit like that. But he is poised to really step in as a starting position. Corner was the by far biggest struggle that this team had last year. Could not seem to find a true number one. And Keyshawn Nixon is not a number one corner. And I think Green Bay may have been 2 years late, but they finally learned that he is not their number one corner.
Yeah, the tackling issue certainly concerns me. If you can't tackle in college, I'm really wondering if you're going to tackle in the NFL, but Packers certainly hope that you're good enough at coverage. You're not going to need to make these big open field tackles. I mean, he's not playing safety, so it's probably not a huge concern. Yeah, that's a couple question marks for me that throws up.
Next, we have the round 3 pick, Chris McKellen, DT out of Missouri. This was actually, I think, their best pick of the draft. Again, defensive tackle was a weak spot last year. I think McKellen is going to step in, not more of a big body run stuffer as what we were kind of hoping, but he does have that strength. He is sitting in the low 300s, if I'm not mistaken. So he does have that size to really shore up for those runs, but he is very great pass rushing skills and really able to take on those 2 blockers of the middle and shore up that A gap. And that's where that team really seemed to struggle those inside runs last year. I think he will not really see the field a ton starting out, but eventually we will see him kind of rotate in more and more as that nose tackle position. I think we'll see him kind of get more and more reps as the season goes. He's going to be a big help for this team.
Yeah, certainly on the lighter side, which is a little odd for playing that nose tackle position, but he's quicker, he's smaller, so I do kind of like it. That defensive front for Missouri was super strong. I know Missouri struggles in the SEC, but they are a good program. They're just not quite to top tier SEC talent just yet. I do like that quick lineman. I think this guy will pan out for him. Again, I don't see it happening immediately, but I do think this will come later on.
Don't get me wrong. I do think each team needs that 340, 350-pound run stuffing defensive tackle on their roster. Like, personally, I think Desmond Watson, that 400-pound D tackle on the Bucks, I think he could be a really fun player to
Didn't
watch
he
in
get
these.
cut?
And then brought back. He got brought
Okay.
back.
Okay, I didn't know he came back.
But I would like to see someone like that on the field. You know, a 400-pound menace kind of
Did you
thing.
want to go to round 4?
Yes.
Okay.
This guy's insane. All right. Jumping into the round 4 pick, Danny Dennis Sutton, edge out of Penn State. Micah Parsons is possibly one of the most excited players about this pick. He had a lot of get up, kind of a lot of young Micah is what they're kind of calling him so far early in rookie mini camp kind of situation. Very fast get up, very, very quick. Not a lot of strength, but you can grow strength as you get older, get more established. He's not really sitting in a situation where he has to deal with a ton of snaps. He's going to get some snaps early due to the Micah Parsons injury. And so far from what the Packers office is saying, they're extremely excited about the potential to see what this guy has coming out.
Yeah, there's certainly a team need for sure at this position. I don't love that he's coming off of an ACL injury. Absolutely a team need here for sure. Seems to be a super fast, athletic specimen, as most of the edge rushers are. These edge rushers are becoming my favorite players. Packers knew what they were doing here in round 4. It is concerning dropping to round 4 if that's going to be someone that's starting on your defense, but hopefully they know what they're looking at.
GM Brian Gutekunst has kind of shown that round 3 to round 5 range has been his sweet spot. He's
a sleeper guy.
He's been ass in the first round. He's not been good in the first round. Jair and Jordan are the only 2 good first round draft picks that Brian Gutekunst has had in his tenure since 2016. It's been a struggle, but he has always thrived in that round 3, round 4, round 5, getting those injury ridden, just kind of like raw prospects and turning them into potential stars. Zach Tom, for example, being a former 4th round draft pick. A lot of questions on him coming out of college, and he just signed one of the top 5 offensive tackle deals in the league. So there are some questions on injury, but I do think overall this was a fairly good draft. I would say more of a B plus, just due to not having a first round draft pick, and the reason why is on injured reserve or possibly PUP starting out the season. Kind of a struggle, but they did shore up positions needed, especially very good talent at those positions.
Yeah, and that definitely time will tell on that one. I do think they drafted well for positional needs. Absolutely. I don't really know the people they drafted, so I'm going to dock them because it wasn't names that that specifically jumped out to me. So I will give them C+ on this, especially because you gave up 2 first-round picks and Micah Parsons is not on the field. Obviously, they have no control over that, but I'm going to give them a C+ for this draft. Win-loss total on the season sitting at 9.5 prior to jumping into the schedule. How do you feel about 9.5?
I think they're going to win 16, 17 games this year.
Figures.
No, I do feel like the 9.5 is low. They're not going against easy teams. They do have a hard schedule.
Not a super friendly schedule is what I was just going to say.
But I feel like 10, 11 is kind of comfortable for that Packers range. Last year was a little bit of a low spot, but I think 10, 11 is comfortable.
So looking at their first 5, I think if they can handle Chicago at home, I've got them going 5-0. I think that Dallas game will definitely be brutal. It's always a battle between the 2 teams. They actually tied last year. The rest of their schedule just really, other than Carolina, which Carolina is no walk anymore.
No.
But After the bye week, you've got to go to Los Angeles, into New Orleans, which is a very, up and coming team. You're going into their house late in the season. They're going to have some stuff figured out. I'm concerned as we go down the stretch, not concerned as in I'm wondering if they're going to make the playoffs. I think the Packers are absolutely a playoff team, which believe me, if I could tell you they weren't, I would love to, but I just don't see it. Like they've got too many pieces in place. The question marks are going to be this young defensive secondary, some of this new defensive talent that they're bringing in is questionable, but they do still have enough veterans on this roster, I think, to make it work. And if we can get Jordan Love to perform at his ceiling, which we know is there, if he can perform at that capability level, I think this team can absolutely go out there and win 11, 12 games this year. I really do. I'm definitely heavy on the over for this team.
I'm optimistic about this season. I think the Packers have a real chance at not just making the playoffs, I think at Super Bowl aspirations. I think they're trying to get over that hump that every team's trying to get over, but there are certain teams that are pretty much at that tip. You got the Rams, Seahawks, Patriots, those teams that are really over that hump, really vibing for Super Bowl championships. I think the Packers are so close to getting over that final hump, and I think it all lies within their offense.
And they are. I had them picked to go to the Super Bowl last season, and they're only trending in the right direction this year. And I honestly, if they were an AFC team, I would have them absolutely going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
It's going to be that NFC Championship game. When they make that, can they perform the way that they need to?
and I think it's going to come down to, can Jordan Love perform under pressure? Can Jordan Love put the team on his shoulders and learn from his mistakes that he's made over the past few seasons? Statistically, when you go at the advanced metrics that a lot of other Packers fans want to throw out, he is a top 5 quarterback in the league. But when you look at the actual numbers, you look at all his actual performance, he struggles in those situations. A lot of that is not on his shoulders. Matt LaFleur has been critical of himself and his play calling and the position that he puts the team in. I don't know why they feel like they need to run a end on a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 7, 8 times in a game. Doesn't work. Hasn't worked the first time. Let's just stop fucking running it. I think that is going to be the catalyst on where this team lays, because if they can't learn from their mistakes that they've had these past couple of years, which they're the same mistakes, and we can't say they're young anymore. They're not the youngest team anymore. We can't blame on that age excuse any longer. Jordan needs to grow up. Matt LaFleur needs to adapt. He needs to understand what works, what doesn't work, and needs to work with adapting new plays that he is so good at establishing. He's so smart when it comes to those sneaky option plays and those motions.
Yes.
He keeps the offense moving, so it struggles to make the defense know what's happening, and they can move off of that. But when you become predictable and you run inside zone on 1st and 10 every single drive, you start to learn that you're going to run an inside zone, you're going to run a play action, and that's going to be it. So,
Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. It was one of those things that was absolutely, the NFL could not figure out how to stop it. But the NFL has adapted, and these defenses will figure out a way to stop you, and Andy Reid has not changed.
Exactly.
So that we saw the downward trajectory, and if they don't change and they continue to do the same things,
it's going to be a weird year for the running back room. Josh Jacobs dealing with those legal issues, which from everything that I've seen, not really going to be any so far. That looks like there's not going to be any charges filed. It looks like everything's going to be dropped. But overall, I think if they can get the running game working, I like Josh Jacobs. He has the ability to be a ball carrier, or a workhorse in this league, and he's shown. He's led the league in rushing. Last year, he struggled. He wasn't able to get those big pops, but he also was getting contact with the ball very close to the line of scrimmage. If he can get a 1-2 punch with Josh Jacobs and 2-year draft pick Marshawn Lloyd, who's struggled to see the field, if he can stay healthy and those two can get some ball carrier situations working out, a 1-2 punch, this offense could thrive. Allow Jordan to not put so much pressure on his shoulders, but still allow him to sling it low or sling it far.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hot Takes and High Stakes. We've only got 7 more Sundays until we have some football. Let's go. Enjoy training camp. See you next week.